Before we start, quick little thing. This is a parody for comedic purposes only. Please do not contact, harass, or interact with anyone mentioned. Got it? Be good.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Survivors of bad theology, and anyone who accidentally clicked on this while looking for an actual church service. Welcome back to the Red Hot Mess Conference, the only weekly news show where the sermons are long, the grudges are longer, and somehow the earth being round is now breaking news. I'm Lionel, Keros, and tonight, this morning, it's 7:30 a.m. You people deserve accuracy. We have reached a historic milestone. For the first time in recorded history, Steven Anderson has said something we can all agree with. Sit down, breathe, drink your coffee, we'll get there. The big news this week? Honestly, same circus, better footage. That's the headline. The clown car is still flipping over, but now more of it is on video. More of it is archived, and more of it is being reposted like a nature documentary narrated by someone who has completely lost patience. At this point, the NIFB is producing its own satire. We're just here to add graphics. But before we dig in, a public thank you to our field researcher, Emmanuel, brother. I know you're watching. Thank you for sitting through hours of Jonathan Shelley so the rest of us don't have to. You are out there mining comedy gold under truly hostile conditions. Take a shower, drink some electrolytes. You're a patriot. We start with Pastor Jonathan Shelley, a man who continues to preach like a substitute teacher, trying to convince the class that nobody saw him erase the homework from the board. Shelley is deep in the damage control phase of his pastoral career. His whole sermon this week. People came to our church, they thought it was nice, then they left and called it a cult. That's it. That's the whole sermon. That's the story. Pastor, buddy, your congregation was in the room when you said you broke fellowship with Steven Anderson. They're also in the room now that it turns out you didn't. The receipts are on Isaac Anderson's YouTube channel. 50,000 people have watched it and counting. This isn't a cult keeping secrets. This is a cult keeping a straight face, because that's the real NIFB specialty. Not truth, not leadership narrative maintenance. Everything is always being repackaged. People didn't leave. They were thrown out. Contradictions are not contradictions. Their persecution recordings are not evidence. They are attacks. If you slip on your own banana peel in this movement, apparently Satan put it there. But Shelley gave us the finest clown moment of the week. He stood behind a pulpit and said, and I quote the spirit of it, that wanting to be loved by your children is the flesh, that you cannot be loved by your children and also be a soldier for Christ. Sir, is that a confession with extra steps? Let's walk through your logic together. Your kids love you, soldiers, for Christ don't get loved by their kids. Therefore, you're either telling on yourself or you're telling on your kids. Pick a lane. This is a 2-lane confession highway, and you are swerving across both. Is the new fruit of the Spirit estrangement? Hey guys, my family hates me, which means I'm basically a Navy SEAL for Jesus. That's not theology. That is a hostage note from a man losing an argument with his own sentence structure. The funniest news of the week doesn't even come from the NIFB. It comes from the people trying to avoid them. A Facebook group called KJV Churches has issued what is essentially an ecclesiastical APB. They're telling pastors across the country to lock the doors and brace themselves for May 17th because Steven Anderson is sending out soul winners to infiltrate regular, boring, non-abusive Baptist churches. Their exact warning, be ready for an influx of heretics. Let that sink in. The NIFB spends 90% of its time calling everyone else reprobates. They scream that the rest of the world is damned, and now regular conservative Baptists are looking at them and going, lock the doors, the actual lunatics are coming. This is not revival. This is an ecclesiastical weather alert. This is not the movement is growing. This is please secure the fellowship hall.
The NIFB claims they're expanding rapidly in reality. They are a religious invasive species and other churches are calling pest control. Cut to Steven Anderson last Sunday complaining in his sermon that nowadays everybody is a narcissist. The word doesn't even mean anything anymore. Steven, my guy, that is true. People do use the word a lot. The difference is when they use it about you, they come with examples. If one person calls you a narcissist, maybe it's unfair when large numbers of people independently arrive at the same conclusion after years of watching your behavior, your family chaos, your public cruelty, and your endless rebranding of personal fallout as spiritual attack. At some point, that's no longer cancel culture. That is a pattern recognition hobby. Anderson is aged by the way he's wearing glasses now. He's giving off strong, crazy grandma energy. You know what I mean? You visit a relative, they hand you a lukewarm cup of tea and then just ramble and complain for 2 solid hours while you nod politely. That's a Steven Anderson sermon in 2026. Steven, can I go? Not until I finish telling you about Joel Edstein. Main event, top of the hour, front page. Steven Anderson has planted his flag on the most controversial, high-stakes theological battlefield of our time, proving the earth is round. Out of his last 10 videos, 8 of them, that's 80%, are about debunking flat earth. He put himself in a spacesuit, folks, a spacesuit for a position that is held by every human being currently breathing. Ladies and gentlemen, after years of sermons, after all those degrees from AHASU, after the bans, the exiles, the international incidents, Steven Anderson has finally produced content that unites humanity. Left wing, right wing, ex-members, current members, his natural enemies, his natural allies, the NASA turned my dentist, a golden retriever, we are in full agreement. The earth is a globe. Congratulations, Steven, you found it. You found the one safe opinion. Stunning bravery, heroic restraint, truly the Galileo of strip mall fundamentalism. It only took years of higher education and a Bible college degree to hit the bare minimum standard of human intelligence. Let's just ignore that his family is fractured. Let's ignore that he preaches domestic violence from the pulpit. Let's ignore that his adult sons walk around in crop tops, chokers, and dresses while he sermonizes about biblical masculinity. Let's ignore that his parenting strategy is basically grime a worm tongue from Lord of the Rings, whispering manipulative poison into his kids' ears and hoping it alienates them from the outside world. Ignore all that, because Grandpa Anderson put on a spacesuit to yell at internet trolls about gravity. And the visual packaging, the AI-generated thumbnails, dramatic lighting, weird fingers, 6 teeth, gorgeous. Steven, sincerely from the bottom of my heart, please keep using AI. Use it in the sermons. Use it in the prayers. Feed the whole ministry into the machine. Trust me, I'm your best friend. Your fundamentalist audience is gonna love this. This cannot possibly backfire. It's also a tremendous public service. Before, you had to click the video to find the stupidity. Now it's pre-labeled and gift-wrapped on the thumbnail. The stupidity is branding. 10 out of 10. So that's the news this week. Shelley is gaslighting people who remember what happened. Outside churches are treating the NIFB like a doctrinal pest alert. Steven is reframing collapse as holiness. And after all this time, the movement's brightest intellectual contribution is, and I quote, breaking, globe still globe, beautiful, historic, embarrassing. The Titanic isn't sinking anymore, folks. It has hit the bottom of the ocean, and Steven is down there in his spacesuit arguing about the shape of the seafloor. We're gonna try living on a flat earth for a week to see if it lowers our IQ to NIFB levels. Report back next Saturday. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and remember, if your ministry spends this much time explaining that everyone else is lying, but also that the earth is round, you may not be in a revival. You may be in a cartoon.